Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all.
These losses stay with me. They fester, Jerry.
What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. Toadstool Sports Tuesday, February 3rd. Not happy about yesterday, man. I am not. Where do we begin? I guess we begin with the New Orleans Pelicans, who had a 15-point lead at halftime, and then I think they scored 30-plus points in each of the first 2 quarters, and then they scored 34 in the entire second half, and they pushed on the +7, which luckily there was a +7 out there that I found, but probably a lot of people had 6.5 on that. That should not have been a loser. It shouldn't have been a push either. It was a push from the number that I had, but, dude, I'm very angry about that. It was unbelievable. They were still winning the game outright with 10 minutes left in the game in the fourth quarter. Okay, they should cover the +7. Absolutely ridiculous. You will not see a worse second half probably ever again. That's how bad it was for the Pelicans. Fuck the Pelicans. Just what the hell. Then the market, by the way, agreed with me on that one. If you look at the final market percentages on that, the market agreed with me on Southeastern Louisiana as well, and that was just dead. Never even close. Complete loss. I don't know what to tell you about that. Yeah, they lost the game. They did not come close. That was it. Hockey, we got the win with the Detroit Red Wings, the only win of last night. Last night, for me, was 1-2-1 was the tally yesterday, so a losing day. The one win was the Detroit Red Wings, outright win, shutting out the Colorado Avalanche in Colorado, I believe. So Colorado is really starting to falter here. I know they have kind of a difficult schedule here, the schedule makers haven't done them any favors later in the season here, and they have a lot of situations where they're lacking rest, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. And then the Vancouver Canucks, yeah, they suck. They can suck it. The Canucks, not even close. Horrible loss. It was 1-1, a decent way into the game, but then, yeah, after that, there was never much of a chance. I don't know if the game was that close statistically either. It was a bad day. We'll move on to today. I'm trying to be really selective today. I have one play in each sport, even though there's a decent-sized college basketball board. I'll give out some opinions, but I have one play in college basketball, one in hockey, one in NBA. They're what I consider to be the strongest. I don't even know at this point, man. Maybe I'm on tilt. Mr. Pinsey, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Kyle, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Let's we got to bring more people into this, man. I don't know, dude, I need to, change my background, make everything look better. I need to not just roll out of bed and do the show because I look like shit. I don't know. Obviously, I'm wearing the same stuff I wore last night. Thanks for the people that hung out for the bracketology show. I don't know. I definitely need to change what's behind me, though. Get a different backdrop. Got to do something different here. We need more people to show up, watch this show. watch me rant, and maybe I can give out some winners here, man. The weekend was good. Yesterday was not. Let's get back to it. We got college basketball, obviously. Miami, Ohio is in action in basically the first game up. There were a few games at 6:30 p.m. This is one of them. Only on ESPN Plus, though. Ranked Miami, Ohio. You know how I feel about them being ranked. Yeah, no, not even close. Just because they continue to not lose, the rankings makers have put them there, even though they're about the 90th best team in college basketball. They're on the road at Buffalo here. Couple of problems for Buffalo here in this one, even though, yes, obviously I think Miami, Ohio is way overrated, which has been the case for a while. They keep escaping with wins. The problem for Buffalo here, though, is that Buffalo's not as good as their record looks either. And Buffalo already almost beat Miami in Miami, Ohio. So because that happened, they actually took Miami, Ohio to overtime in Miami, Ohio not that long ago. And because this happened, I think Miami, Ohio will show up for this game. Both teams really shot well in this game. It was kind of an insane game. Miami, Ohio were 10.5-point favorites in this game, and they almost lost. So I think that will focus them in this game. So I don't really like Buffalo in this one, man. Miami, Ohio is coming off an easy win against Northern Illinois. Easy win. They do have the Sun Belt MAC Challenge is up next. So all these MAC teams that are playing today have a Sun Belt opponent next. Miami, Ohio is going to be drawing Marshall. I was looking over here. I'm like, what am I doing? Marshall's not in the MAC. Marshall's an okay team in the Sun Belt. I don't know if that's really much of a cause for a look ahead, although that is a big event because you want to represent your conference well. But I don't think Miami, Ohio is going to overlook Buffalo just because Buffalo gave them a real scare at home. Buffalo will obviously show up as well trying to beat this team, but they're not the better team in this case. Buffalo did just take a home loss to Ohio. They are staying at home here. But, yeah, I mean, the money's coming in on Buffalo. I think that I probably disagree. Although watch this be Miami, Ohio's first loss. Miami, Ohio went up from 4.5 to 5. 56% of the tickets, 74% of the cash on Buffalo. I probably lean towards Miami, Ohio, though. But it's not a strong opinion for me. And it's entirely just because Buffalo gave them a big-time scare the other time they played them. So a lot of times when that happens in the second meeting, if the team in the first meeting was a huge favorite, especially a home favorite, and almost lost, they usually play pretty well in the next game. So that's what I'm going on there. Tyson, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right. We have more MAC action. Akron at 6:30 p.m. is at Eastern Michigan. What do we do with this game? Well, probably nothing. Akron up from 11 to 11.5. Deservedly so. I mean, they're a way better team than Eastern Michigan. Akron still, I think, is the best team in the MAC. But Akron is coming off 3 big wins in a row because they beat a bunch of their Ohio rivals, beating Ohio on the road, Toledo, then Kent State. Kent State is in 3rd place in the conference right now. Toledo and Ohio right behind that. So those are all pretty big wins, man. And now they face Eastern Michigan, who they did already beat at home by 21 points. So they might overlook Eastern Michigan, man. And Akron does have Troy up next in the Sun Belt MAC Challenge, whatever we're calling it. Troy is the best team in the Sun Belt. So Akron, I mean, I'm sure the schedule makers did that on purpose, thinking that both of these teams would be the best teams in their conference, which they are. So that is kind of a big game. So I would have to lean towards Eastern Michigan plus the points in this one, but this one does not make my card or anything. But it does look almost a little bit sandwichy for Akron here. They're an 11.5-point favorite, like I said. I don't see the percentages yet. That game also at 6:30 p.m. None of these 6:30 games are televised. And then we have the Battle of Buffalo, Part 2, Kinesia and Niagara. Kinesia actually lost the first game at home, and I think they're probably the better team, so I pretty much like Kinesia here because they're in one of those spots where they were the slightly better team. They lost at home. I think they should bounce back after that, although they've been playing really poorly. They've lost every game since then, 5 more games in a row. They're staying in Buffalo. They were just at home, lost to Siena. Siena's a pretty decent team in this MAC conference. Niagara is terrible. I mean, both of these teams are bad. Niagara is probably the second worst team in the conference to Rider, which is also what they are in the standings. Niagara has also lost a bunch of games in a row. They've lost 5 in a row. They're staying at home. They just lost to Marist. Not a close game either. So both teams coming off losing to some of the better teams in the conference. It's a very similar setup for both teams coming into this one, but I have to kind of lean towards Kinesia to get the road revenge here and have a little bit more motivation this time, as what I think I think they are the slightly better team. Niagara's gone up from 2 to 2.5 here. Odds makers are indicating that Kinesia is the better team slightly based on that line. Very low total, and it's going to be a fun game to watch. Total of 126.5. Because it is a huge rivalry, though, I don't believe that Niagara will really look ahead to Quinnipiac. I think both teams will show up with focus in that one. But, yeah, it's a rivalry between two bad teams. 7 p.m., the big conference action starting on Peacock and NBC Sports Network, Xavier at number 3 Yukon, although I keep saying Yukon's not really the third best team in the country. They play in a weak conference. They are 10th, I think, according to KenPom right now. They're still going to be a huge favorite against Xavier, though. The Richard Pitino Xavier Musketeers, they have not been good this year. However, they come into this with a little bit of momentum because they just broke a 3-game losing streak. And those 3 losses were to teams that are pretty clearly better than they are. Creighton, St. John's, and Seton Hall. So those were kind of expected losses. Now they got a win against DePaul. They got some motivation here. They did already lose to Yukon horrendously back in Cincinnati at Xavier earlier in the season. 90-67 was the final there. So it is a little bit of a road revenge angle for Xavier, which, again, it's a bad name for it, but it's a quick way to say it. But really, that angle works because a team like Yukon might just look right past Xavier after they know they destroyed them on the road. They know Xavier's not good. Yukon's not exactly in a good spot. They just crushed Creighton on the road, although Creighton is kind of a mediocre team in the conference, but still a pretty big win. Now Yukon's coming back from Omaha after that huge win, well, not a huge win, but a blowout win where they might feel pretty good about themselves. And they got St. John's on deck, and St. John's is really the only threat to Yukon in this conference right now, I would say, because Yukon did already beat Villanova as well. So I don't believe they've played St. John's yet. So that's a pretty big game there between the top 2 teams in the conference. So those look like a little bit of a sandwich spot, plus the road revenge angle for Xavier. I would have to lean to Xavier in this one. The money seems like it agrees. UConn's a 17.5-point favorite. A lot of points to lay here. The total's not very high in the 140s. 76% of the tickets and 82% of the cash on Xavier. I agree with the Xavier side here. I almost feel like I'm being too selective now because I do like Eastern Michigan. I like Xavier, but I'm staying off of some of these games here. But yes, UConn is definitely overranked as well, so they're probably laying a few too many points just based on that fact. And then I guess we have to see which. Yeah, so this is in Hartford as well. I wanted to see which arena this was in. So UConn gets the less rowdy crowd when they play in Hartford. It's a bigger arena. They have the craziest crowd when they're playing on campus at stores. So this is not one of those games. So that's another indicator that Xavier might be the way to lean in that one. Xavier plus the points. 7 p.m. ACC Network. BC is at number 4 Duke. BC is coming off a pretty close call against Virginia, man. BC played pretty well in that game. They only lost by 7. They were pretty close with Virginia down the stretch in that game. So I don't know if they're going to be able to put in another big effort like that, another game in a row as a big underdog. So the spot doesn't look great to me for BC, but it's also not that great for Duke. At least BC should probably get up mentally for the game against Duke. Duke just beat Virginia Tech on the road by double digits. And they have a big game on deck against North Carolina. So that could be a pretty major look-ahead spot for Duke because, of course, that is their main rival there. It'll be a huge game, even though Duke is the better team. There is the possibility they overlook Boston College here. The money is coming in on BC for what it's worth. Duke is up to a 26.5-point favorite, close to 27. They're getting the public action still. 62% of the tickets, 66% of the cash on Boston College, though. Total has gone way up. It's gone up 7 points, which is interesting. I guess it's something to note, although with a total that's still low at 140.5, might not be that easy for Duke to cover a huge number like that. Duke also likes to play slow, so the fact that that number, that total is going up is interesting. Boston College, I mean, they also play slow. That's what I thought. So I don't really see what's going, like, I don't know why that total has gone up as much as it has with both teams being slow paced. I don't know, but I guess I'll agree with the market. I'll lean towards BC in that one just because I think the look ahead for Duke, I think, is pretty major, even though a lot of times I think what the team is coming off of is a bigger factor because it affects you both physically and mentally. And BC is coming up that tough game, but they're not going to overlook Duke. It's just a matter of how fatigued do they get. And if Duke is kind of taking their foot off the gas here, looking ahead, there is the potential the back door is open in this one too. Ooh, yeah, sounds hot. All right. ESPN2 at 7 p.m., SEC action. Ole Miss at Tennessee, who's now ranked again at 25th. And I think rightfully so. I think they've been a little bit underrated so far this season. They're back in the rankings. Ken Pom, I think, has them as the 18th best team in the country. There's a reason they're laying double digits here. Part of the reason is that Ole Miss isn't good, but part of the reason is that Tennessee is probably better than people think they are right now. Even though, yeah, Tennessee's taken a little bit of a step back from the last few years. Ole Miss is on a 3-game losing streak, and while I don't think they'll overlook Tennessee, this is a very difficult spot for them. It's a 3rd straight road game. It's a 5th road game in the last 6 games. They have another road game next on Texas, although they're not going to overlook Tennessee, but Ole Miss just almost upset Vanderbilt in the last game, man. So they're coming off a huge performance as 10.5-point underdogs against Vandy, which, interesting, the odds makers are telling you Tennessee is better than Vanderbilt, which I'm not sure if that's true. Ken Bum does not have that being the case, but it's interesting to note that Tennessee is a heavier favorite than Vandy was here. Vandy were 10.5-point favorites in this one, though, and Ole Miss played really, really tough in that game and fell just short. And you know what I always say, when a team played really tough as a huge underdog like that and they fell just short, a lot of times they do come up flat in the next game. It is a pretty difficult scheduling spot for Ole Miss here. Tennessee did just get a win over Auburn. Decent win, although Auburn's down a bit this year. They do have Kentucky on deck, and that is a potential. That potentially is a pretty big look ahead because those teams don't like each other, and Tennessee already lost at home to Kentucky, so they most likely are going to have that game circled after Kentucky beat them in their own place. So that would be my concern with Tennessee here, although I do lean to Tennessee. Looks like Ole Miss is getting some public action here. 76% of the tickets, although 77% of the cash. The line hasn't really moved. It's at 11.5, but I think I have to lean to Tennessee in this game. Again, just the spot is very, very difficult for Ole Miss. So that's the way that I would lean, but this one does not make my card. The total is fairly low, 139, so might make it a little bit more difficult for a team to cover as a huge favorite here. But I don't know what else I was going to say. I was going to say that the under kind of makes sense in this game too, though, because both teams play slow. Both teams, I'm pretty sure, are more defense-oriented, so the under may be worth a look in this game as well. But the thing I would worry about with the under is that Ole Miss might be just kind of running out of gas because they played so many they're coming off a difficult game. They played too many road games in a row, but generally, yeah, both defenses are better than the offenses. So that's what I think about that game. She squealed. What's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right. Southern Illinois and Illinois State is kind of an interesting one in the Missouri Valley. I continue to say Southern Illinois is pretty undervalued, I think. Ken Baum has them as one of the unluckiest teams in the country, which I keep saying. They keep underperforming, although it does keep happening. But now they're coming off a loss as a favorite. They lost to UIC, Illinois, Chicago, and it looks like they wouldn't have been a favorite in that game, but they were. Although maybe you could argue that maybe they'll be in a hangover spot here because that was kind of a big game because Illinois, Chicago is near the top of the Missouri Valley, but Southern Illinois was actually favored in that game. I don't really think they're going to overlook Illinois State, man. I think really Illinois, Chicago probably considers themselves to be a little brother in the state of Illinois to Southern Illinois. And at this point, Southern Illinois probably considers themselves to be the little brother to Illinois State. So I kind of expect them to show up here. They did already lose at home to Illinois State as well. So they're in one of these second meetings where they're an avenging road underdog here, which I do like to look at. So I kind of like Southern Illinois in this game. I like it even a little bit more because Illinois State just played Belmont and then Murray State, and they beat Murray State. Both those games on the road, pretty big win. Although Murray State, Ken Baum has them as somewhat lucky. He has them as the third best team in this conference behind Belmont and actually behind Illinois State. And Illinois State did just beat them. Still a big win because Murray State was near the top of the conference. So this could be a little bit of a letdown. Wish they had a bigger game up next, which would make it a sandwich, but they don't. Illinois State plays Drake next, and they did already beat Drake on the road. Drake is down this year, so Drake is not as good as they were the last couple of years. Let's just put it that way. They lost most of their talent and their coach from last year. So, and the regime from the prior year had moved on to West Virginia last year. I don't even know where those guys are now, the DeVries regime, because they already got replaced in West Virginia. So I don't know what's going on with Drake, man. We don't even know. Nobody knows what's going on with Drake at this point.
Boy, I'm really starting to dislike the Drake.
Hate the Drake.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks. All right. So, but yes, in this game, I forgot to finish my thought. Yes, I lean towards Southern Illinois in this game. Illinois State is up to an 8-point favorite, but they are a very public side, 92% of the tickets, only 83% of the cash. I do think this line is quite high, given that I think Southern Illinois is really one of the most underrated teams in college basketball at this point. Ken Baum probably has them a bottom 5 luck team right now. I mean, they've lost close games. They've lost games that they probably should have won. So that's the way I would lean. Southern Illinois plus the points in that one. Oh, thank you, sir. Seinfeld, one of the best shows out there. Yeah. I try to bring some of that in every once in a while. I might need some more drops, but I'm gonna have so many that I can't even keep track. Because in StreamYard, they're all just in like one thing. I'm like, how do I even find the drop that I want? All right. VCU at Fordham. I don't even know if this game's worth talking about, but VCU had a weird game in their last game against Loyola Chicago. They wound up winning by 14, but VCU was actually losing that game 24-9 right out of the gate. But they were, I think, winning the game before halftime. So this Loyola Chicago, I mean, they're just really having an awful season. And VCU came out flat and were like, oh, whoops. And then they just started playing and easily won anyway. The main handicapping factor here, I think, is that VCU does have Dayton on deck, which is a pretty big game. Dayton, one of the better teams in this conference. So for that reason, and because Fordham is not good, maybe they'll overlook Fordham. I can't really jump on Fordham here, though, because, well, we took Fordham in the last 2 games, and they barely got us by against LaSalle. They did cover. We got lucky on that one, though, I think. But then we got a nice, easy winner with Fordham as a 12-point dog. They got the outright win for us against George Washington, when George Washington, I thought, was in a horrible spot, coming off almost beating St. Louis. So Fordham was able to get that one done. But because of that, I can't really play them now. I mean, a team coming off a double-digit upset like that, I'm never going to be on that team. I'm either going to fade them or I'm just going to avoid the game. Sure, they should get up for a game against VCU. VCU is one of the best teams in this conference, probably the second best to St. Louis. I'm not going to do it, though. I can't do it. In fact, I probably lean towards VCU here, even though they do have the look ahead that might be a factor. But VCU is coming up that game where they started out really slow, so I think they realized they didn't play well in that game. Fordham off the huge upset. I lean VCU here. They look like an anti-public side, too, which is pretty shocking. 92% of the tickets, 90% of the cash on Fordham. That doesn't even make sense to me. I don't know what public better is coming in on Fordham here. Even at a line of 8.5, that doesn't even seem like it's that big, given what these teams' records look like. VCU did move up from 7.5 to 8.5 as a favorite there. But, yeah, I lean to VCU in that one. I'm glad you enjoy it, sir. All right. I'll try to incorporate more drops maybe, but they got to be relevant. Speaking of Dayton, Dayton gets a TV game in the 7 p.m. action here on CBS Sports against St. Bonaventure. To me, I think St. Bonaventure's in a terrible spot, though. If you see what they did in their last game, which this is an interesting game because St. Bonaventure was hosting George Mason, who has the way better record. But I keep saying George Mason's not actually the second best team in this conference. I think they're either third or fourth, behind obviously St. Louis, behind VCU, and possibly behind Dayton. But it was one of these games where the line just looked really weird. Like St. Bonaventure has really underperformed this year, and they were actually like only a 1-point dog or something in this game. So the line looked really strange. I was like, well, that means you should probably take St. Bonaventure in this one if you're going to take it. I didn't give it out as a play or anything. And St. Bonaventure, what they did in this game, man, I don't see how they get back up off the mat after this. They were winning the entire game, including winning by double digits throughout like the entire second half. And then somehow they blew the game and they lost in the end. I think the only point where George Mason was ever leading was the final score, basically. So, yeah, I think it was literally, after they took the lead and then they got like a couple more points right at the end. So, yeah, the only time that George Mason was winning was when they pulled ahead 74-73, and then after their final couple of points there. So, I don't see how St. Bonaventure gets back up off the mat after that. Man, they almost pulled off what they probably would consider to be a huge upset, even though based on the line it wasn't. Sure, they should get up for a game against Dayton, but it's going to be really difficult for them to do that, I think. Dayton coming into this game, they did just play St. Louis, but they got absolutely manhandled by St. Louis. St. Louis is just really, really good. Dayton just could not do much in that game. So now they're coming off a blowout loss. They've lost 4 games in a row. They're back at home. 3 of those losses were on the road. The last time they were at home, they had a bad loss to Rhode Island, so I think that might focus them as well here. They've won all of their other conference home games, although against Fordham and Loyola Chicago, not very impressive, but they did beat George Washington at home as well. So they have been better at home, obviously, as most teams tend to be. I would lean to Dayton in this game, but the money is completely disagreeing. Don't really understand why. I don't see how you could play St. Bonaventure after the way that last game they played out. Dayton's down from 9 to 8.5 here. 87% of the tickets on them. 71% of the cash on St. Bonaventure. You know, it's probably just numbers, guys, man, that are all just coming in saying, well, St. Bonaventure's underrated, so they're probably getting too many points here. Okay, I mean, fine. Like, if you want to go with the numbers, okay, but I think when you're playing just the numbers, I think you're playing blind, man. This is why I rely on situations, because the situations are hard to quantify, and these guys are all humans, so that's why I do this. And I think it affects teams. It's the best handicapping technique, in my opinion, because it's hard to quantify into the number. It's like that hidden edge, man. If you can get into these guys' mindsets. So there's no way that I would blindly, this is why, I wouldn't blindly play like a numbers play. Because you got to, take a look at the situation here. So, yeah, even though St. Bonaventure might be an underrated team, I can't do this. But, yes, Dayton does have VCU up next. So, some of these guys might be saying, well, situationally, Dayton's in a sandwich spot, right? Well, I would say no, because they got crushed by St. Louis. So, if that game was close, I would say yes. But that's the difference between, did you play that game close? Did you have a close call against a really good team? Or did you get absolutely crushed by that team? If you got absolutely crushed, then I'm not going to say it was a sandwich spot, because the game was pretty much over right after it started, so you didn't wind up putting in a huge effort. You know what I mean? So it makes it easier to get over it. It makes it easier to refocus after that. So those are my thoughts on that. We have a Battle of Ohio. It seems like we pretty much always do in the MAC. There's going to pretty much always be some Ohio battle going on there. Kent State at Toledo. It's a decent game. It's not televised, though. But these teams are both in the top 4 in the standings in the conference. They're both probably amongst the top 4 or 5 teams power rating-wise in the conference as well. Kent State did just lose to Akron, although the game wasn't close. That was a big game. But because it wasn't close and because this is a rivalry, I don't think Kent State's going to overlook Toledo. And these teams already played at Kent State. And Kent State only won by 3, so they didn't cover. They were 5.5-point favorites. So, again, that is an angle I look for. when you were a favorite at home and the other team covered against you and gave you a close call, that will give you reason to put in an effort in the next game. So I think Kent State will show up for this one. They are the better team. Yes, it is a second straight road game coming off a big game, but the game against Akron wasn't that close. Toledo should show up as well. They're coming off an easy win over Ball State, where I thought they were in a bad spot, but still got that win there. Both teams will show up, though, in my opinion. But if that's the case, I would say probably leaning towards Kent State does make sense. They are the better team. They're a little bit of an underdog here because they're on the road. Toledo has dropped from a 2-point favorite to a 1-point favorite. 72% of the tickets on them. 54% of the cash on Kent State. So the money is indicating on Kent State. I agree with it. That's the way I would lean there. All right. SEC Network, 7 p.m. South Carolina is at Texas. This game being televised is like, I mean, I don't think it's going to be that great of a game. I don't know why it's getting a television spot, but people are going to look at this line and say, like, how is Texas a 12.5-point favorite here when their record hardly looks better than South Carolina's, right? But as I said last night in my bracketology show, Texas is way better than their record looks. They're way low in Ken Palm's luck index. He's telling you they've way underperformed based on what they actually are. Like, Ken Palm probably has them as like a top 45 team in college basketball. Like, they should probably be a team that should make the tournament. They're going to have to get some wins here. They're going to have to win this game. Will they win it by margin? I don't know, but I think the public's going to look at this and wonder why Texas is a big favorite like that. But I'm telling you, they're actually way better than South Carolina. Texas is probably the most underrated team in the SEC. Because they continue to lose close games. They played some difficult teams pretty competitively, man. South Carolina is coming off losing at home to LSU. They've lost 3 games in a row. Probably they'll show up for a game against Texas, but if Texas does also show up, I would expect Texas to probably be able to win this one by margin, to be honest. South Carolina did lose that LSU game in overtime, by the way. They were a small underdog in that one. LSU's really kind of trailed off since the conference play started. They just haven't been that good. But that game still went into overtime, so maybe you'll see a little bit of fatigue on the part of South Carolina here. They got to go to Austin, Texas for this one. Texas did just win their Red River rivalry game against Oklahoma, although in basketball, that matters less than it does in football. So I don't know if that's really going to be are they really going to be in a letdown just because they beat the worst team in the SEC standings-wise? Probably not. And Texas needs to keep getting these games, for their tournament resume purposes. They only have Ole Miss up next, which isn't exactly a big game either. So I kind of think Texas will show up in this one. And the line just looks like way too big to the public eye, and we do see 58% of the tickets on South Carolina. It's one of those lines that just looks misleading, but the odds makers have put that line out for a reason. The money has already come in on Texas. They're already up from 11.5 to 13, so I'm going to agree with it. 66% of the cash on Texas as well. I do agree, again, like just for that reason alone, that the line just looks like it's way off based on what the team's records are, but knowing how underrated Texas really is. If they show up, I think they should be able to win that one by double digits and probably cover it. So I would lean that way in that one. Again, it's not my play, though. Number 22, St. John's, who is back in the rankings now at DePaul on Peacock. Now, sometimes when these teams become ranked against, that like kind of puts a target on their back again. Although I think everybody in the Big East already kind of knew St. John's was one of the best teams in the conference anyway, though. So maybe it doesn't really matter, but they do have that 22 next to them, and I think they're legitimate. They're a legitimate team. They should be ranked. Ken Baum has them 21st, so they're pretty much ranked accurately. The spot might not be great for St. John's, though. They're on a huge run. They've won 7 games in a row, rolling through the Big East here, but they play Yukon next, man, and they have not played Yukon yet, so that does set this up as being maybe a look ahead. That game is in a few days. I think that's, what is that? Is that, how many days do we have? Is that Friday? Are they actually playing a Friday night game? I think they might be, because I was thinking it was Saturday. No, yeah, it's a Friday night game. So they get a, probably in Madison Square Garden, they get a massive TV game against Yukon. So definitely might be cause for look ahead here. they already played DePaul at St. John's and beat them by 13, so they might overlook DePaul, man. So that's the worry with St. John's, is that there's a pretty big look-ahead component to this. DePaul should show up, of course. They can make some adjustments maybe to the fact that they lost that first game to St. John's. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They did just have a close game on the road at Xavier, where I assume Xavier was favored. Yeah, 4.5. It wasn't like DePaul almost pulled off a huge upset or anything like that, because Xavier's been bad this year. So, yeah, I think DePaul should show up here on a losing streak like this. I would lean to DePaul plus the points in this one. St. John's is a public side, 86% of the tickets and cash. They're up from 9.5 to 10 here. But, yeah, I would look towards taking the points with DePaul. I think that look-ahead spot for St. John's is pretty crazy. And then we'll see what the post-game press conferences look like, and maybe they'll look a little bit like this.
Yeah, inside, I want to kill myself.
We'll see if that we'll see if that happens or not. All right. What else do we have going on here for games that I might want to talk about? It's crazy that Illinois, Chicago, and Murray State might actually be a good game, man. Illinois, Chicago, they're 8-4 in conference. People are going to look at this and think, oh, Illinois, Chicago, yeah, this team, like, they're doing well in the Missouri Valley. They must be good, right? And look at what they've done recently. They've won 8 games in a row, I think. I think they started 0-4 in conference play, and now they're 8-4. But I think we got to dial it back a little bit. I don't think they're as good as what they look like. They're playing Murray State here. Murray State is clearly the better team still. UIC is coming off that win over Southern Illinois, which actually was an upset. Now it's a second straight road game. Now, they're not going to overlook Murray State, and that's kind of the problem. Murray State did actually beat UIC at UIC already. So maybe Murray State will overlook them, although Murray State only beat them by 4 in that game, so they actually did not cover. That's how much better Murray State is than Illinois, Chicago. They were more than a 4-point favorite on the road against them. So they'll be a pretty big favorite in this game. Murray State's lost 4 in a row, so it's like something's got to give here, man. Now, I don't know how Murray State's going to respond, because they did just have a huge game against Belmont, and Belmont pretty much proved that they are the better team in that game. But it was a 17-point loss where Murray State they really did not play well defensively. I mean, defense is not really what Murray State does. They're the racers, man. They go fast, they score, they don't play a lot of defense. So I don't know, will they respond? I mean, the fact they've lost 4 games in a row, but 3 of those are on the road. Now they're back at home. They lost their last game at home. And again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, a lot of times when a team returns back home in college basketball and they're on a losing streak and they lost the last time they were at home, they do show up with focus. I'm going to kind of lean that way, man. I think, again, the records look a little bit misleading here. I think the public might not really want to lay points with Murray State like this. They're up to a 6.5-point favorite here, but I would probably lean that way. I would probably lay it with Murray State here. I'm not sold on UIC at all. Tickets look like they're 50-50. Murray State, 90% of the cash. And the fact that Murray State was like probably at least a 5-point favorite on the road against UIC. Like, I understand that you have to adjust the power ratings a little bit because UIC does look better than we thought they were back then. Yeah, they were a 5.5-point favorite, but I mean, come on, man. Like, do we adjust it so much that Murray State, based on them being a 5.5-point favorite on the road there, they should probably be like a double-digit favorite here? Like, should we really have adjusted the numbers that much to the point where they're a 6.5-point favorite? I don't think so. I think there's line value here on Murray State, man. So I would lay the points in that one. And then you get to watch Murray State. They're the Frenchman, Romain Damone, although I think he's been coming off the bench, but he's soon enough, man, I think he's going to be a starter somewhere, and we'll see where he winds up. But if you watch his tape, I mentioned this on my bracketology special because I enjoyed watching the tape of him, man, which shout out to Alex from Punk Rock Libertarians. He sent me the tape on this guy. The guy looks like Larry Bird, man. I mean, that's he's the same height. He's white. Like, he looks the same, like, physically pretty much. And he has the same, like, style of play, which I mentioned last night. Like, the way that he passes the ball, the way that he takes shots, I'm like, whoa. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Larry Bird or anything, but it is interesting that his style of play does look very similar, which is pretty crazy. She squealed. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, man. Dude, my shows are really long. I don't know, man. Like, I'm trying to make this less boring, but I don't know. Maybe it's it's only going to be interesting if you're like super autistic and you're really into like all the sports betting stuff. So I don't know, but I appreciate it, man, that you're continuing to hang out here. What other games that I want to talk about here, man? I don't know. If you want me to talk about any of these other games, I guess I can. A lot of these other games didn't really jump out at me as having like big situational angles or anything like that. We still haven't gotten to my one play yet either, I know. We have an ACC game at 9 p.m. on ACC Network between Pitt and number 18 Virginia. Pitt is just not a very good team, man. As I keep saying, they're the Pitts. I thought they were in a good position to cover against Clemson, and they did not. They lost pretty badly. Actually, oh, man, they almost covered. Actually, it depends on the number. I think that if you got a better number, actually, they did cover for you. They lost by 11 in a low-scoring game there. If you got the opening number, you actually did get a win on that one. So there you go. So Pitt actually covered. Even though they lost by double digits, they covered the opening number against Clemson at least. Second straight road game. It's not going to be that easy playing these two good teams in a row, but you got to think Pitt will at least show up with some effort here against Virginia here. Virginia is going to be laying a lot of points. Virginia, they do play slow, so that's kind of the issue with Virginia trying to lay points with them is that they have a slow, ugly style of basketball, although not as slow as they played under Tony Bennett. Virginia might show up in this game too, though, because they did just have a scare at Boston College, which was a weird spot for them because it was a fourth road game in 5 games. They were coming off a very close call against Notre Dame, but they had to play multiple overtimes to get through that game. So then having to travel to the other Catholic school, BC, kind of a weird spot for Virginia, and they almost got caught in that game. So they might actually show up with more focus here now that they're back at home. They lost the last time they were here as a favorite against North Carolina. So I don't really know that I love Pitt in this one, man. I might actually have to lean towards Virginia here. If you think they're actually going to show up, which they might, you do have to lay a decent amount of points. But it is interesting that Clemson was laying 12.5 on the opener, although it closed 10.5. Virginia at 13.5. But how much better is Virginia than Clemson, though? Ken Bum has Virginia 17th and Clemson 32nd, so there is a difference there. Virginia should be laying more points than Clemson was, and the opener was fairly close, so it is possible there actually is a little bit of line value on Virginia, believe it or not. Either that or Clemson was just overrated, which could be the case as well because they are ranked higher than Ken Bum has them. We got 88% of the tickets on Virginia, 99% of the cash. I don't know if that cash percentage can't be accurate, so I don't know if the money really will come in on Virginia or not. It might. Virginia is going to be the public side most likely, but it might also wind up being a professional side. Sometimes that does happen. Total pretty low, 142.5, makes it less tempting to lay the points, but I think I would probably lean towards laying the points in that one. Thank you, sir. Yes, I try. That's what I do, man. And I still have not freed up my funds so that I can start betting again. Like back when I was working, I was funding the habit, and I was using it as supplemental income because I have been winning at doing it. But I continued to do the show, and I had to preface it all by being like, I'm not actually putting money on most of these games right now because I don't have enough liquid funds right now. I got to free it up so I can do it again. That's going to happen soon. I probably will actually put some money on the Super Bowl at the very least, though. You got to. Although, I mean, I happen to like the side in the Super Bowl, though. I wouldn't force it if I didn't like it. CBS Sports at 9 p.m. Our pals at St. Louis, the Pelicans, are in action here. Legit team, man. They're ranked 19th now, and Ken Bum has them, I think, somewhere around, the 20th best team as well. St. Louis is for real. They're just rolling through the A-10 right now. They just crushed Dayton. But, I mean, at some point, they're going to have games where they're just laying too many points, man. They have had road games where they haven't covered, at Duquesne, they did not cover. I don't know. It's tough to predict what St. Louis is going to do, man. Whether they're going to blow a team out or whether that team is going to hang with them. So I don't know, but after a blowout of Dayton, which was a good spot for St. Louis to bounce back, by the way, after they almost lost to George Washington, they showed up with extreme focus and they just pummeled Dayton. But now that they're going back out on the road, maybe they won't have full focus in this one because that was a big win. Dayton's still one of the better teams in this conference. Can't say the same thing about Davidson here, really. Davidson, just a mediocre team, easy to overlook them. Dayton just broke a losing streak with a win at Richmond. That was a fairly satisfying win, you got to think, against Richmond. Dayton was a small underdog in that game, but nothing huge. I don't think you're going to be overconfident after beating Richmond, though, even if you do beat them on the road. But look at Davidson's prior 2 games, though, man. They were pretty competitive against VCU and George Mason. So the fact that they were competitive against the other good teams in the conference, I know St. Louis is better than all those teams, but that does show you that Davidson probably can put together a competitive game here. And St. Louis, coming off the win that they're coming off of, might actually overlook Davidson a little bit. So I would probably lean to taking the points with Davidson in this one. 78% of the tickets are on St. Louis. 52% of the cash on Davidson. St. Louis down from 10 to 9.5. St. Louis is really no longer a secret, though, for anybody that's following college basketball. Everybody's going to see that they have 1 loss on the season, no losses in conference. They're ranked. The public is on to them, you know what I mean? So the books are going to have to skew the number towards them a little bit, even though a lot of times they keep obliterating that number. But in this game, I actually don't really think so. And it is still odd that St. Louis is in the Atlantic 10, even though they are in St. Louis, Missouri. So they have these weird travel spots. Oh, let's go down to Davidson and wherever the hell Davidson is. North Carolina, South Carolina, somewhere. I forget where it is. One of the Carolinas. So it is another kind of weird travel spot for St. Louis there, which might be not totally beneficial to them. Sometimes the break is beneficial. Well, I'm doing it because I got fired for covering Kanye West. So that's the state of America now, man. That's the state that we live in. You can go from a 6-figure income to absolutely nothing and basically not being able to get a job in that industry just because you play a song on ukulele. So that's awesome. Should we talk about Drake? I mean, I don't know. This game's not a TV game. It is on ESPN2. Drake is just not very good this year, man. They're playing at Belmont. Drake just lost to Bradley, which was Bradley has gotten their revenge, let's just say, because Drake beat them in the conference final last year. But, of course, Drake is a much different team this year. They're not as good, not even close. Bradley was able to sweep the season series against them. Drake coming off double-digit loss at home to Bradley. They're not going to overlook Belmont. However, Belmont might show up with some focus, though, because Drake gave Belmont a run for their money at home. Drake only lost by 2. So Belmont might actually show up for this one. Because that's one of the handicapping angles I look at, where what happened in the first meeting. And if the significantly better team almost lost the game, the public might take a look at it and think, oh, well, if Drake played them competitively that time, they might be able to do it again, right? Although they'll especially think that if they did it on the road. In this case, Drake did it at home, and now they're going to be on the road. But even so, I think Belmont might remember that game and think, well, we didn't play well. Although they were only 4.5-point favorites, but Drake almost was able to take them out, and now we see Drake just not playing that well. Belmont, we pretty much know, is the best team in this conference. So Belmont has some reasons to maybe refocus and show up in this game. However, Belmont is coming up that very good win against Murray State, man, beating one of the best teams in the conference. That was a huge win for Belmont, so there is still the possibility they're going to be in a letdown spot here, and it makes matters worse that they have to play Illinois, Chicago, and then Bradley in the next 2 games, and those are the other 2 of the top 4 teams in the conference standings right now, so that's not great either. So there is definitely an argument this is a bit of a sandwich spot that Belmont is in here, so I don't really love it. Yeah, I mean, I think I have to lean to Drake in this one. Belmont dropped from 12 to 10 here, although based on Ken Bum's numbers, Belmont is way, way better than Drake, so I do think the line is not that high. Like, there actually might be some line value on Belmont now that the line has dropped, but situationally, I do lean towards Drake here. 50-50 on the tickets and then 90% of the cash on Drake. So it does look like the real money is coming in on Drake for what it's worth. The public bettors love Drake, man.
I don't even like Drake.
You don't like the Drake?
I hate the Drake.
I love the Drake.
How could you not like the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
The Drake is good.
Excuse me, the professional bettors love Drake. The public loved them in the tournament last year because they had a really pretty record under the Ben McCollum regime there, and then they were a really public side in that tournament, man, and they still pulled off the upset of Missouri because Missouri just wasn't ready for a Drake team that was going to slow the pace to a crawl. And part of the reason why Drake won that game was also that Drake, even though all their guys and their coach had all moved up from a Division II school, the fact that that team had played together for like 3 straight years, they had a ton of chemistry, and that's very, very rare in the age of like the NIL and the transfers now. So you don't really get teams like that very often. So that's pretty much how Drake was able to do that. But now Drake has lost all those guys. McCollum is over at Iowa, as I keep pointing out, whatever. Drake in the state of Iowa, by the way. So they probably are pissed about that. Ben McCollum went to the big boys, the big school in Iowa, one of them. Yeah, you don't like the Drake. And then I'm pretty sure in that episode, don't they give the Drake a TV as a wedding gift, and then he calls off the wedding and then keeps the TV, if I remember correctly, and they all get mad about it. Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, I mean, it opens up different opportunities, I guess, although I need to make money too, though. So that's kind of an issue, Maybe I could do it through betting once we start like ramping this thing up again, if I decide to do that. I don't know. But we will see. But I don't know. All my life I've known that I'm not like, just personality-wise, I'm not built to like work for the man, but I did it for like almost 20 years, and I'm considering going back to doing it again so that I can make money, because I was making a good amount of money. But I don't know. A lot of these companies don't want me, even though I do software development, and I don't know. I'm pretty good at it. Yes, you don't like the Drake. Yes, correct. I believe that's correct. The TV. I should know. I've seen every Seinfeld episode multiple times. So, yeah, one of my favorite shows. Nevada at Boise State. We got a good Mountain West matchup here. It's an interesting matchup. These teams already played, and Nevada beat Boise in Nevada, in Reno, by 15. Boise looks like they're the significantly worse team here based on the records, but I've been telling you that power ratings-wise, that's not really the case. Boise, definitely a bit of an undervalued team right now just because they haven't played well in conference, but they are starting to play better. Boise, I think, is still... I know I forgot to mention them in my bracketology last time, but I think they're still one of the teams in the mix to potentially win the Mountain West. And once that conference tournament starts, Boise will be dangerous. Nevada's having to go to Boise now. They already beat them in Nevada, like I said. Nevada is coming off a rivalry game where they beat UNLV. I know UNLV's not that good, but pretty satisfying when you beat down your little brother there. They might maybe not take Boise totally seriously here. Boise likes to play some real ugly games at home, slow the game way down. Boise coming off a loss to Grand Canyon, although that did halt a 4-game win streak for Boise. A lot of times I don't like that. When a team loses a win streak, sometimes they'll be hung over into the next game. But I don't know, man. I'm a little bit I'm concerned about Boise, though, because I thought that was a good opportunity for them to get a road revenge win, because Grand Canyon caught Boise in a very bad spot when Grand Canyon played them at Boise, and it was a play I gave out on the show. Grand Canyon pulled off the upset at Boise, but Boise had played like a triple overtime game against San Diego State the game before that. They had Utah State on deck. It was like a massive sandwich spot, so we got a nice win with that one. That was explainable, but then going to Grand Canyon, I really thought Boise would be able to get their revenge, and that did not happen at all. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get out of Boise this time. And so I do worry about that. And then if you look at their conference record here, they only have one good conference win. They did win at home against New Mexico. But other than that, all the rest of their wins are against the dregs of the conference pretty much. So I don't know. There are some things to worry about Boise here. As far as, I already talked about Nevada, so I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get out of this game, man. The money, I believe, is coming in on the Boise side. They're a 6-point favorite, which people are also going to look at that and say, how am I getting 6 points with Nevada when they have the better record and they already beat Boise by double digits, right? So it does look way too easy to take the points with Nevada. So when I see a line like that, I will want to lean towards the team where the team where the line makes no sense, right? Like I'll tend to want to fade the public. I want to fade the public in most, like basically just by default, I want to do it. But just because that's the way that it works. Like the public, I think they will lose more than half the time. Long term, 64% of that's how the books make their money. 64% of the tickets are on Nevada, 65% of the cash on Boise. Although of course they make their money with the VIG, so it doesn't even really matter. Like if they can actually split the action 50-50, then they'll win regardless of the outcome. But in a lot of cases, they'll be accepting like the public action on one side and be okay with it. Like in this case, they probably had to know that, if we set the line at 6, the ticket percentage will be on Nevada, although they are getting the professional money on Boise here. So what do we want to do with this? I don't know, man. I mean, I lean towards Boise, but it's a tough call. Ken Bum actually has Nevada slightly better than Boise, so he would definitely be making the line. I would recommend buying Ken Bum, as I always say. I tried to not dive into his paywalled stuff on the show. Doesn't cost that much to get Ken Bum. So again, it's probably $30 a year or something, $30. But based on his power ratings alone, you could tell because he has Nevada as the better team. He does not have Boise as a 6-point favorite here. He probably has them about 4, maybe less. Boise probably gets about 4 for home court. Their home court is pretty strong, and they are going to slow it down. Nevada does also slow it down, though I think actually surprisingly Boise is less slow than Nevada this year. I'm kind of surprised by that because Boise is usually one of the slowest teams out there. Going to be a slow-paced game, man. Maybe an under makes sense in the game. Totals at 146. You got two teams that are decent defensively and play slow, so I don't know. But I'm avoiding the game, though. No, don't like working for people. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just not mentally built that way. Get a head start. I mean, I was just doing it just to live the way that I wanted to live. Okay, I'm going to make a good amount of money here. I don't know. It's just, that was what I was doing. ESPN 2, we have this ACC game, 9 p.m., NC State at SMU. It's a good game. Both these teams are probably going to make the tournament. I think NC State probably the slightly better team here. NC State just beat one of their rivals, Wake. Coming off of that, I don't really think they're going to overlook SMU, but it is a weird travel spot because SMU hasn't been in the ACC for very long, so having to go to Dallas as an ACC team is odd. It is also a lot of road games for NC State, a 4th road game in 5 games. Maybe won't be that easy for them. They're actually a road favorite here, by the way, which is interesting. So looking at the line, the public is probably not going to want to lay the points. I know they probably like the name NC State better than the name SMU, but looking at the records, would you really want to lay 2.5 with the road team? I'm not so sure, although the conference record is way better for NC State. But the odds makers are telling you they're the significantly better team. SMU did just take a blowout loss to Louisville. Well, not a blowout, but they lost by double digits at Louisville, but kind of expected. Louisville's a solid team. SMU coming back home now from that. I'd probably lean towards SMU in this one, man. NC State up from 1 to 2 here. 67% of tickets, 71% of the cash on them. So the money looks like it is coming in on NC State, but I just think it's kind of a weird scheduling spot for them. I think the spot sets up a little bit better for SMU there, coming off a loss, which wasn't a close loss. NC State, weird travel spot, too many road games in quick succession, and coming off a win in a rivalry game, although I know they're the bigger brother on that rival, so the game doesn't matter as much to them, but that's how I look at that. Air Force at Grand Canyon, really the one thing to look at in this game is Grand Canyon just got their season sweep of Boise, another pretty big win over Boise there. So simply, it could be a letdown spot for them against Air Force. So Air Force is miserable. Although, you're probably going to get effort out of Air Force because they're a military academy. That means they're disciplined. They're still trying to get their first win in conference play. Probably going to get effort, but they are bad, man. But we'll see what happens here. They haven't played Grand Canyon yet this year. But it's an unfamiliar venue, so that might be part of the reason why Boise lost at Grand Canyon, though, is that Grand Canyon's new to the Mountain West Conference, so these teams are not as familiar with going to their venue. But in this game, Grand Canyon is going to be laying too many points. I think they're up to a 26-point favorite. Air Force is awful. That is true. But total pretty low at 136. I would lean towards taking the points in that one, with Grand Canyon being in a potential letdown. Rutgers at UCLA. Rutgers coming off now playing two pretty big games that they played close as underdogs. Rutgers took Michigan State into overtime at home 2 games ago. So I thought Rutgers was going to be in a bad spot off of that, having to go all the way to the Pacific Coast, play USC, unfamiliar environment. But I didn't love USC in the game either because USC, I think, was coming off a big game themselves. And Rutgers actually covered again and almost won the game as a pretty big underdog at USC. So now they're coming off 2 games in a row where they played really well as a big underdog. Now, will they fall flat against UCLA? I don't know. I mean, it is a game that they should get up for because it's UCLA, big name. They're, of course, ahead of Rutgers in the conference standings by quite a bit. They're adjusted to the time zone now, at least. But I don't know what Rutgers is going to have left in the tank, man. They do have Nebraska on deck, which is a huge game. Don't really necessarily think they'll overlook UCLA here, though. UCLA, though, UCLA is coming in off losing at home to Indiana. I don't know if you consider that to be a big game if you're UCLA or not. I mean, Indiana, they do have a lot of weight behind their name, a lot of name recognition. But UCLA was a home favorite and lost that game, and now they're just staying at home. And it's still an unfamiliar venue for Rutgers here. UCLA moved up from a 13.5-point favorite to 14 here. Does look like the money is coming in on Rutgers, though. 50-50 on the tickets, 63% of the cash on Rutgers. UCLA does play slow, and they don't really blow teams out that easily. The total's low, of course, at 140.5. Both these teams play slow, ugly games. I don't know. I kind of lean towards laying the points in that one, though, with UCLA, just because I don't know what Rutgers is going to have left in the tank as that game continues to progress. That's on Big Ten Network, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And then I said I have a play. Well, we're about to get to it right now. The one best bet that I have in college basketball here. Best bets, let's do it. We're going to take USC +1 here against Indiana. Looks like the money is all over this. Looks like USC is now a favorite. So if you're going to play it, I would say play USC on the money line or look at the spread market and see what you can get on the pick'em price. So right now it looks like it's around a pick'em at -115. But if you see that and then you see a money line because it's a different market, if you see a money line at -110, play that instead of playing the pick'em -115. You know what I mean? This is also why it's good to have a bunch of different books because you can shop around, find the best number on this. But it looks like it's going to be USC money line now. But if you see a +1 out there, you can grab that as well. Indiana looks like the public side, 58% of the tickets on them. 71% of the cash, though. Looks like the real money is on USC. And I'm going to agree. I will agree with this. Looking at Ken Baum's rankings here, he does have Indiana as the better team, which, of course, the odds makers are telling you they are. He's got Indiana 33rd. He's got USC down at 50th. Not a huge difference there. USC is lucky, according to him, 22nd, which does worry me a little bit. Indiana is actually pretty unlucky, according to Ken Baum, at 249th. So a lot of times I don't like to fade that luck disparity because that means that Indiana has underperformed based on their stats, and USC has overperformed. But looking at their other numbers here that Ken Baum has, they're not like these teams are not that far off from each other. Indiana is the better offense. USC is actually the better defense, and I do like to look towards the better defense, which does seem odd because USC does speed the game up, and Indiana is actually slowing it down a bit this year. So weird to see the fast-paced team being the better defense, but that is the case with USC, and I do like to lean towards the better defense in games that are close calls, and especially when they're an underdog, although in this case they're not going to be an underdog. But I do like that, and the fact that USC might be able to speed this game up, I think I like that too because it can throw Indiana out of what they want to do, where they want to play slow and find good shots, slowing the game down. This game's on Peacock at 10 p.m., by the way, 10 p.m. Eastern, but also the spot is not good for Indiana here, man. Indiana came up that big upset of Purdue in an Indiana rivalry game. I mean, Indiana and Purdue, big-time rivalry. I think Indiana considers themselves to be the little brother in the state of Indiana to Purdue. So that was a monster win. Then they had to go out to the Pacific Coast for a third road game in 4 games, and they still pulled off the upset over UCLA, and this was like 3 days ago. And it went into double overtime, And it ended, by the way, UCLA had won 14 games in a row at home, by the way. So maybe another indicator on UCLA tonight, although you need them to win by a huge margin, though, not just win if you like UCLA. But anyway, that was a huge win for Indiana, man. Again, 2 big wins in a row. Going to UCLA off of the Purdue upset. They go to UCLA and play them to double OT and beat them and upset them, too, in a back-and-forth game. Crazy game. UCLA actually shot terribly in the game. So that's another thing I like to look at, like what actually happened in this game. Well, UCLA had 10 more field goal attempts in the game, but they shot 39% from the field. And that's part of the reason they wound up losing the game, man. So that indicates UCLA was doing better than Indiana in like the possession battle. UCLA out-rebounded them. So that's not a good sign as far as looking for Indiana moving forward here in this game. UCLA actually did outplay them in the game. So the final score was a bit misleading. Now Indiana's coming up those 2 upsets. They got USC, which is now a 4th road game in 5 games and another unfamiliar venue for them, even though, yeah, they're adjusted to the time zone now. But I think it's a bad spot, man. And they have Wisconsin on deck. And Wisconsin is obviously one of the staples of the Big Ten, and they're up above Indiana in the standings, whereas USC is behind them in the conference standings. So for that reason, they might overlook USC as well. UCLA, by the way, is ahead of Indiana in the standings. So this looks like kind of a sandwich spot, to be honest, even though USC has a decent record. And then looking at USC just barely escaped against Rutgers, and they're just staying at home here. And I talked about that. USC, they were in a bad spot in that game, though. That's what I thought. USC had gone on the road and upset Wisconsin, and then they almost came back and upset Iowa, which I'm not happy about because I gave out Iowa in that game minus the points. And Iowa blew a huge lead in the second half in that game. USC put in a huge effort, didn't go away. So I think they were flat coming off of those 2 games, coming back home. They almost lost to Rutgers. Now that they're back home for a second game off a bad performance against a very bad Rutgers team, I think that's going to refocus USC coming into this one. So, yeah, I like USC in that one. I think it's the best situational spot. The line is flipped again, by the way, so you may very well be able to get USC as an underdog here. But it looks like the actual money is coming in on the USC side. So that's what we're doing there. USC is my one college basketball play. Fox Sports 1 has Mountain West action, UNLV and Fresno. It's going to be a long video here today, man, because we have to talk about hockey still and although I don't think there's a ton of hockey today. And NBA, there's like 10 or 11 games, so unfortunately, might have to take a quick break after I finish college basketball. I was hoping to have this video be like an hour and a half, this stream, but we'll see. UNLV has lost 3 games in a row. They did just take that loss to their rival, Nevada, but they lost by double digits, so I don't know. They may bounce back off of that, but they do have Grand Canyon on deck. I don't know. They're playing Fresno, who isn't really a team that's going to draw much of your focus, although UNLV is not playing well, so they might not really overlook anybody at this point. Fresno just beat Air Force, not a big deal, coming back home here. So this game, I think both teams probably do show up here. Fresno initially did move from a pick'em to a 1-point favorite, but it looks like the money is coming back on the UNLV side with 50-50 on the tickets, 75% of the cash on UNLV. I don't have a good read on this game at all. And as you know, I pretty much entirely do sides in everything except for baseball. I guess I'll lean with the market on that one towards UNLV, but I don't have a good opinion on this at all. There's no real scheduling advantage, I don't think, from between one team or the other. And then the last game of the night in the degenerate hours here, another Mountain West game, CBS Sports. These last 2 games are at the same time. Wyoming at San Diego State. It's not that interesting of a game, but there might be some situational angle here. Wyoming, they've been on not a good run here, let's say. They already lost, by the way, at home to the San Diego State team by 17, so they're going to be in a road revenge spot here, and San Diego State might overlook them for that reason. Wyoming, they're going to show up for the game, most likely. San Diego State sitting, I think, atop the conference now. They do have Utah State next, Wyoming does, but they're not going to overlook San Diego State. San Diego State beat them in their house. If any team's going to overlook this game, it's going to be San Diego State. Wyoming did right the ship with a win against Colorado State, so they're coming into this game with a little bit of momentum of a win that's not like a huge win or anything. So I like that. Even though Colorado State won the conference tournament last year, they're just not doing well this year. So Wyoming, the spot's fine for them. It's actually a positive spot for them, I would say. But for San Diego State, they're coming off a close loss at Utah State. That was a huge game, man. San Diego State, that was the first time they played them this season. I think Utah State is probably still the best team in the conference. They're actually ahead of San Diego State again because of that win. They're tied in the conference record, but ahead of them with the tiebreaker. So that was a huge game, and San Diego State fell just short on the road at Utah State. So I think they might be in a bit of a hangover spot off of that. So I would lean towards Wyoming in this game plus the points. San Diego State did move up from 11.5 to 13 here. And in a game where I think at least San Diego State's probably going to be trying to slow the game down, although I think Wyoming plays slow as well. Makes points more at a premium here. The total's pretty low at 141, 141.5. Yeah, and San Diego State being in what I think is a hangover spot, I would lean towards Wyoming in this one here. Wyoming's not a horrible team. I mean, they're almost in Ken Pump's top 100, so they're not quite as bad as their record might make them look. San Diego State's not that good offensively, by the way. They're much better defensively. They actually play faster than I thought, interestingly enough. They're actually a faster team this year, but they're not that good offensively. They still play low-scoring games. They play defense, so that makes it more difficult for them to cover a huge number like that. So I lean towards Wyoming in that game, plus the points. All right, NHL up next here. Not a ton of NHL to talk about here. I'm going to take a quick break. I will be right back. I will then talk NHL and NBA. And I don't know, should I show the board? I don't really have much I'll give you a little bit of an intermission music here while I do this. Hang on. All right. Yes, I have many renditions of the 76ers theme song there. I don't even like the Sixers. I don't even like Philadelphia. I just like that song. I am a Boston fan. What's up, man? She squealed. Thanks for hanging out, man. Long show here. All right, hockey. I'm going to have one play in hockey here. First game up is Columbus at New Jersey. Columbus, they're on a bit of a win streak here. They're playing well, actually, recently. They've won 5 games in a row. But they've had some time off, and I think that's a bad thing. They haven't played since Saturday, and sometimes when you have multiple days off, it can disrupt your momentum, and that's not really good when you're on a win streak. So I don't know if that's really a positive. They're not going to be looking ahead to Chicago, who they just beat on the road, though, so maybe they will still show with focus on New Jersey here. Columbus is coming off beating St. Louis, so that's not a very impressive win there. New Jersey did just take an ugly loss to Ottawa, which was also on Saturday. So they've had time off as well, but I think that's more of a positive for them because having extra time off can disrupt that losing momentum as well. So I think it sets up better for the Devils in this one. So we will I'm not going to give it out as a play or anything, but I lean to New Jersey in this one. Columbus is flipped from plus 100 to minus 115 on the money line, but it looks like they're getting the public action. Public just likes what they see recently, man. Oh, Columbus is hot. Close game. Let's play them. 77% of the tickets, but the real money looks like it is on the Devils. 69% of the cash on the Devils. So not a play, but I lean to the Devils in that one.
Don't mess with the Devil, buddy. We're number 1. We beat anybody. We're the Devils. The Devils. Diablo. Dios mío. El diablo.
Yes, I've probably too many Seinfeld drops, but it's also not enough at the same time. All right, next game up, I think, is my play. Yeah, exactly. Next game up is my play. Let's do it. Best bets for hockey here. It's just this one. And I believe the market is agreeing with me. It was earlier, at least. We're going to go money line Philadelphia. We're going to go with the Flyers, not the Sixers here. Washington is at Philadelphia here. I like how this one sets up for the Flyers, man. I think Washington could be in a bit of a sandwich spot here. Washington's on a 3-game win streak, beating Detroit in a shootout on the road. Big win. Detroit's been playing well. Then they beat Carolina, who's maybe still the best team in the Eastern Conference. Probably between them and Tampa Bay or whatever, really, at this point. That was a huge win. That was overtime as well. That was Thursday and then Saturday, and that was also a return home spot for Washington. And I always talk about how return home spots are bad because teams can get distracted by having to get back to family life and whatever. But they still got that win over Carolina. That was a huge win. And then they didn't have a letdown off of that either. They crushed the Islanders yesterday, 4-1. So I just don't think this is a good spot now for Washington. They have to make a trip to Philadelphia. I know it's a quick trip, but single game, it's not a road trip. And a lot of times with the road trip, the first game, you'll be like focused to start the road trip. But when it's a single road game like this with no time off, after pulling off these 3 big wins in a row against teams that have better records than Philadelphia does, I don't like it, man. I said it was a sandwich. I don't know if it's a sandwich. I think it is a letdown spot, though, for Washington. It is a bad spot here. So I don't know if they're really going to have that effort again in this game against Philadelphia, man. So they're going to have to switch goalies again. It looks like they've been alternating goalies. I don't know if it really matters. I don't know who they will use as their goalie in this game, but I don't think it matters that much, to be honest, because Washington was playing pretty poorly, so then they switched up goalies, and I don't know if that is really going to last, although maybe they will actually look ahead to Nashville as well, by the way, because they did lose at Nashville back on January 11th, so maybe. I just think Philadelphia right now, they're kind of easy to overlook because they haven't played well. But this spot sets up way better for Philadelphia. They've been playing some awful hockey over the last month, man. So I don't think teams are going to take them seriously at this point. And now they've lost 4 games in a row, but they've been off since Saturday. So they have a massive rest advantage here. And I think the rest is going to help because they went into that rest on a 4-game losing streak. So I always talk about it. That rest, it can definitely help you when you're on a losing streak. Break that losing momentum, man. So I think that might be what that will do here. That rest should serve them well. They have multiple days rest advantage here. I know that's going to be factored into the line, but I'm not sure it's factored in enough. And actually, it looks like we can get better than minus 130 on this now. Philadelphia down from minus 130 to minus 120 now. 67% of tickets are on Washington, but 52% of the cash on the Flyers. So it looks like the real money is agreeing with me on the Flyers. That is my one play in hockey today. And yeah, the Flyers, their last loss was to the Kings, so it's not like they had a big performance against a good team. Nope, that wasn't the case. They lost at home, I believe, to a team that's mediocre. And the Kings are good on the road, though, so I will give them that. That is my one hockey play, though. All right. Ottawa at Carolina. Ottawa, they're on a nice run, man. They're playing well with Ullmark back as well. He has played their last 2 games, and they won both of them, although he's not going to be in net tonight, though. So that is going to be a downgrade for Ottawa because he's clearly their best goalie. They're on a back-to-back, so they're not going to use him tonight. They're playing a 3rd game in 4 days as well, all in different cities. So that's going to make it a little bit difficult for Ottawa here. They're going down from Pittsburgh to Carolina here. Now, they're not going to overlook Carolina. Carolina might, in fact, overlook Ottawa because Carolina just beat Ottawa in Ottawa back on January 24th. So focus-wise, yeah, Ottawa should be focused here, but I just worry about the travel spot for them and having to play on a back-to-back. But yeah, for Carolina, they definitely might overlook Ottawa because they did just, again, beat them on the road not that long ago. They're coming off a close game over winning over the LA Kings, though, Carolina. They did have yesterday off. They are staying at home. That wasn't a big win against the Kings, and their game up next against the Rangers. At this point, that's not a huge game because the Rangers haven't been very good. Carolina has to go up to Madison Square Garden for that one game, though, which is very weird. Although that's their last game before the Olympic break, though, which I'm not gonna be doing anything with the Olympics. I don't think so. I never do. Although hockey might be a little bit interesting in the Olympics, but it's gonna be a nice break for me because we have so much college basketball going on. It'll be a nice break to not have to handicap hockey for like 3 weeks. So that'll be good. One thing to like about the Olympics. But anyway, what do we want to do with this game? I don't even know, man. Let me see. The money's coming. Well, actually, Carolina dropped all the way from -220 to -159. So I don't know how or why the line would drop that much when I'm assuming Ottawa's not using Allmark in net, so they're going to be downgrading their goalie by switching back to one of their other goalies. Carolina does have 79% of tickets, 94% of the cash on them, so it looks like after the line dropped, the money is now coming in on the Carolina side. I don't get it. I don't understand why that line moved like that. And Ottawa's on the back-to-back again, like I said, so. And it was a close game for them against a Pittsburgh team that's hot, too. That's what they did yesterday. They got the win over Pittsburgh. So I kind of prefer Carolina in this game, man. It would be either money line or make your own -1 puck line or something on that. But I don't really have a great read on that game at all. And I don't understand why the line is moved like that. Garrett, what's up, man? What are we talking about? They're up 32 with 9 minutes left. Won by 10, and the line was 10.5. Oh, UNC against Syracuse, I think is what you're talking about, right? Yeah. I didn't see much of that game, so I don't know. But the line was 10.5? I thought it was higher than that. Really? I don't know. I closed. I already closed it, man. Let me see. Oh, actually, the game was right there. Oh. Let me see. Wait, was this last night? I'm all messed up. Yeah, this says the line was 11.5 at close. It looks like it was 11.5, but yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. This stuff could be rigged, man. Yeah, UNC, yeah, they were up. Yeah, there you are. They're up 32 with less than 10 minutes to go. That's insane, dude. And Syracuse cut it to 7 with like a minute to go. That's wild. I did not see that that's the way that game played out. That is crazy. You're going to bet on the Olympics? I mean, I think a lot of the same strategies apply, like in the team sports. Like fading teams coming off huge wins. Jumping on teams that looked really bad in the previous game, potentially, stuff like that. Yeah, go to the Carrera Dome, man. You could have watched one of the wins I gave out on the show. I gave out Syracuse over the weekend when they had Notre Dame coming in. Notre Dame was in a terrible spot. We got the win with Syracuse in that one. All right, Buffalo at Tampa Bay. I don't even think I want to talk about Tampa Bay. Hulu is where this game's at. Buffalo is hot right now, man. Buffalo just beat Florida yesterday, so they're on the Florida back-to-back here. Now, they did have rest before that, though, so maybe they'll be okay playing the back-to-back here because they had 2 days off prior to that. It's a big win over Florida, though. This is, again, Florida's the returning champs, 2-time returning champs. Still a little bit difficult to have to travel with no time off. They're going to Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay is coming off. I mean, I think you could take this game 2 ways. They beat the Bruins, which I'm really, really pissed about because the Bruins are winning that game 5-1 in the second period. They lost the game. They'd pretty much blown the entire lead by the end of the second period, too, which is insane. And I'm blaming Jeremy Swayman for that fucking loss, too, because he was in net and he decided to leave net and fight Vasilevsky. He lost the fight, and then he fucking sucked for the rest of the game. Like, what are you doing, dude? I'm so pissed about that game. But you could take it 2 ways now. So, one, you could say, well, Tampa had to put in a huge effort, and it was a huge game because it was one of those weird spectacles. It was an outdoor game in Raymond James Stadium. So they won a big game. So you could take it that way, or you could take it the other way. Well, Tampa was actually a big favorite in that game, and they barely got by that game, so they didn't play well. Had to win in a shootout. So you could take it both of those ways, but you could also point out the fact that, well, they had to play an overtime period, although I think in hockey it's only like 5 minutes or whatever. And then they played in a shoot, maybe it's 10, and then they played the shootout. So they did have to play extra hockey, so how do we figure out what to do with this game? Like, which one is it going to be? Are they going to bounce back off a bad performance as a favorite? Or do they put in so much effort in that game that they're going to be flat here? But then again, also, I don't think they're going to overlook Buffalo because Buffalo's hot. Tampa Bay does have Florida on deck, which is a big game. Both these games are big. Buffalo's not going to overlook them. Buffalo's on a back-to-back. So this game is so hard to figure out, man. I think an over might be the way I would look at this game. The total is high for a reason. It's at 6.5. I don't trust Buffalo's goaltending. I don't know what they're doing with it on the back-to-back. I know Tampa's coming off a very high-scoring game, so it almost looks too easy to go over. But based on the fact that both teams are kind of in bad spots here, I think that's the way that I would look in this one. Tampa Bay down from minus 235 to minus 177 on the money line. I don't know what's going on with that money line move there. 58% of the tickets and 72% of the cash on Tampa. So it looks like the actual money is on the Tampa side for now. I'm not going to disagree with it. I mean, they are staying at home. They do have a day of rest at least. You can make the argument that they should have won that game more easily against the Bruins and just played horribly until the fighting started. So I don't know, man. What do you mean good calls? What? All right, and then we have another TV game. There's a doubleheader on TNT and HBO Max. The first game is at 7:30, and it's a decent one. Pittsburgh at the New York Islanders. Although I think the Islanders are the better team here. Pittsburgh, I don't trust them still, and they have a lot of OT losses. So like I said, I think they're a little bit overrated because they're winning a lot of close games. They just lost a 7-game win streak, losing to Ottawa yesterday at home, and I usually point out when a team loses a huge win streak like that, a lot of times they'll lose the same game twice and be hung over after that loss. So maybe that'll be the case here. They might lose that game twice, even though that was not a great loss to Ottawa, although it is Ottawa with Ullmark back. But that was a home loss where Pittsburgh was the favorite, I'm pretty sure, although it was a small favorite. Now, I'm not that impressed by Pittsburgh's win streak that they had going on there because really most of those games were against very unimpressive teams, although they pulled off a lot of road wins. Really the only great win that was in there was the one against Edmonton, though. So I'm still not sold on Pittsburgh. They're having to travel to New York now with no time off, playing a third game in 4 days, traveling between yesterday and today. Could be hung over after losing the win streak, so I don't love the spot for Pittsburgh. For the Islanders here, they also played yesterday, but they lost 4-1. So, yes, they're having to travel back from Washington, which isn't that great either. But I think they're actually the better team here, and people might think this is like a close matchup between two good teams, but I do think the Islanders are the better team. I think the fact that they're coming off a worse game yesterday, and it wasn't a game that ended a win streak for them or anything like that, losing at Washington. They're also playing a third game in 4 days with travel between these two games, but I prefer the Islanders in this spot. I think it's a better bounce-back spot for them. So I would go with the Islanders in this game if I was going to play it. The money seems like it's agreeing. We have 52% of the tickets on the Penguins, but 79% of the cash on the Islanders. So money looks like it is on the Islanders, and they actually dropped from minus 130 to minus 108, which is weird because Sorokin did not play for the Islanders in net yesterday, and I think he's their better goalie, so I would imagine he's playing tonight. So I don't know why the line dropped like this, although I believe Pittsburgh did not use Skinner last night, so they'll use him tonight. So both teams will have their better goalie in net, but I don't think Skinner's that good, man. I think Sorokin is better. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on in this game. Don't know why the line would have dropped on the Islanders like this because, again, I think they're the better of the two teams, and they're getting less than home ice now. Even though the line opened higher than that, the line basically was indicating they were the better team. So I don't know what's going on with that money line move. But, yes, I like the Islanders in the game. Oh, after Syracuse? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, things might be rigged, man. I don't know. A message delay? Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully my internet is doing all right. Toronto at Edmonton in a battle of Canada. Toronto's just not playing that well, though. Although they've won 2 games in a row against very bad teams, basically. Vancouver, Calgary. Vancouver's very bad. Calgary's not great. Toronto's now on a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, and a fifth game in 8 days, all in different cities, which is not great. So having a lot of travel, having to play a lot of games in quick succession, that's not great, although they should not overlook Edmonton. But and this is their last game before the Olympic break, by the way. But, yeah, I mean, just the rest spot is not very good. The rest advantage is huge for Edmonton here. It's a very, very bad rest spot for Toronto. But for Edmonton, they just got crushed 7-3 at home against Minnesota, and they haven't played since then. They've been off since Saturday, and they're just staying at home. So the spot is just way better for Edmonton here to bounce back from that, although you know it's going to be factored into the line to some extent. But the money looks like it's still on Edmonton, and they actually dropped from -205 to -177. So I don't know what's going on with that market move either. I don't get it. 71% of tickets, 96% of the cash on Edmonton. Money is on Edmonton. I mean, yeah, I mean, sometimes you do have to gauge, like, if teams have, like, big-name players that are going to be in the Olympics, like, is that going to be an added distraction for any of these teams? I don't know. I'm just kind of ignoring that part of the handicap for the most part. But, yeah, I mean, I would lean towards Edmonton in this game as well. I don't know why the line dropped like this. The money looks like it does agree on that one. And then the final game is the other TNT HBO Max game, which is not a great one. Seattle at Anaheim. Seattle's not a very good team. Anaheim, not that good either. I think both teams are pretty overrated, to be honest. Seattle's won 4 games in a row, and they just beat Vegas, but now they've had 2 days off. And again, I'm going to talk about this because, again, having multiple days off could disrupt your momentum, man, and break that win streak for you. So that's not great. And it could be a letdown spot because they beat Vegas. That was the first game of the road trip. So they were definitely very focused. Now, they might not overlook Anaheim because Anaheim did just beat Seattle in Seattle on January 23rd. So there is a little bit of a quick road revenge angle here. So Seattle may show up focused for that reason, and or Anaheim might overlook them for that reason. Anaheim also just beat Vegas on Sunday. They're staying at home. They have one fewer day off. Both teams could be in the letdown off of playing Vegas. Anaheim does have a big game up next against Edmonton, though. Although, well, that's not until after the break, though. So, I don't know. I don't know if we care about that much. But, so the look-ahead spots might be a little bit mitigated when we're dealing with these last games before the Olympic break. The money is coming in on Anaheim, even though they dropped from -150 to -127. So a big drop on Anaheim, but we see 62% of tickets on Seattle. The public wants to support Seattle here because they've looked hot recently, even though they're not as good as they look. Anaheim, 81% of the cash, so money coming in on Anaheim. I'll probably agree with it because I think the extra rest actually hurts Seattle, and both teams are in a letdown spot off of beating Vegas. It is that road revenge angle for Seattle, though, or maybe Anaheim won't take them seriously. But because it is Anaheim's last game before the break, maybe they will actually show up for it. So not a strong opinion for me on that one, but that's what I think about it. Let's do NBA, and then I'll get out of here. We have a lot of NBA games here. I've got one play in the NBA. Denver at Detroit is a pretty good game. First game up, 7 p.m. A few games are at 7 p.m., but this is the first one on the schedule. Yeah, breaks. They'll basically break whatever. That's what I talk about with football buys. They'll basically break whatever your momentum is. So if you're playing poorly, it will help you. And if you're playing well, you don't want that break, and the break might hurt you generally. Denver coming into this game off of losing at home to Oklahoma City. That was a big game, but it wasn't really that close down the stretch. So I don't think they're going to overlook Detroit. You know, it's the first game of a road trip. You're not gonna overlook. Plus, it's a Detroit team that just beat Denver in Denver back on January 27th. So this is the chance at road revenge here for Detroit. So I don't really think they're gonna, or for Denver, excuse me. So I don't think they're really gonna overlook Detroit here, man. Jokic is back now as well, and he was not playing in that game where they lost to Detroit a little while ago. So, but of course that's gonna factor into the line as well. Now, the spot for Detroit, they just annihilated Brooklyn on Sunday. They're staying at home, but when you beat a team that bad, I mean, that's an insane score. Like, what is that? 130-77? So they beat them by 53? Is that math right? I mean, whenever you beat a team by 53, I think you're going to be feeling really, really good about yourselves, man. I mean, they're not going to overlook Denver, but they did beat Denver on the road, although, again, it was without Jokic. But, yeah, to me, I probably have to prefer the Denver side in this one, and the money is agreeing. It looks like Pistons dropped from 6.5 to 4 here, so some market movement against the Pistons here. I don't know if they have somebody resting, or maybe the Nuggets have some injured player coming back, although we know Jokic is already back. Nuggets have been dealing with some injuries, though. 62% of the tickets and 81% of the cash on the Nuggets. I agree with that cash disparity and with that move. I would lean towards the Nuggets in that game. Even though they are coming off playing a bigger game in their previous game, I think the spot does still set up better for them. The Nuggets have actually been better on the road than at home, believe it or not. So even though the Pistons are very good at home, 19-5, the Nuggets are 19-7 on the road. So they've been a good road team. So getting points with them does seem like a decent way to look in that one. And then looking at the personnel real quick, looks like the Nuggets, yeah, Aaron Gordon, we know he's still out, so that's not affecting the line. It looks like Jamal Murray is not on the injury report, so he is probably playing, and we know Jokic is playing, so there's nothing else really that important about that. Utah at Indiana, this is a pretty ugly one. Utah's on a losing streak. What else is new? They've lost 6 games in a row. They did just have a somewhat close game at Toronto, losing only by 7. But when you're on a losing streak like this, I don't think you're going to overlook anybody. And they got Markkanen back for that game, I'm pretty sure. So I think that was actually the reverse injured player spot that I talk about, where when your best player comes back, the line has to adjust for it. And a lot of times the team won't be up to speed there. They won't play as hard knowing that star player comes back. You know what I mean? So I think it was maybe that made it a bit of a negative spot for Utah, although they probably covered in this one. Yeah, they were 10.5-point dogs, so they did actually cover. But Utah, if Markkanen is back and he's playing, that will obviously help them. And I think because they're on a losing streak, I don't see them overlooking anybody here. Let's see here. Yeah, Markkanen not on the injury report, so he will, I assume, be playing here. Although it looks like Nurkic is resting, so there's some stuff going on for Utah here. But I think the spot here is worse for the Pacers. Pacers just had a close call against Houston yesterday. So the Pacers, they're staying at home, but they're playing a back-to-back, coming off a big game against Houston. So I think they could be in a bit of a hangover spot here, man. So I would be leaning towards the Jazz in this one. It looks like the money does agree with this. The Pacers down from 4.5 to 3.5 here. 65% of tickets on the Pacers, but 60% of the cash on the Jazz. So I agree with the Jazz. It's not a play for me. I don't think it's that strong, but I don't know. We'll root for my analysis to be right, even though I kind of get angry when I see all my leans being correct and I haven't given them out as plays, but at least that means my gauge on the game was right. So go Utah, I guess.
Who do I root for? What do I do? Root for Utah! Utah!
Root for Utah. All right. As I have some of my Celtic pride drops here. Underrated movie, man. Stupid comedy, but it's fun, and I'm in it as an extra. So there you go. As an 11-year-old. Actually, a pretty funny movie, actually, to be honest, in my opinion. Critics hate it because it's absolutely dumb. Judd Apatow, I think, was like a producer on it or something. It's got Dan Aykroyd and Daniel Stern and Damon Wayans. 2 crazed Celtics fans basically wind up in a situation where they sort of accidentally kidnap the star player for the Utah Jazz during the NBA Finals between the Celtics and the Jazz. So there you go. Although that drop is kind of a spoiler, but whatever. All right. Best bet time. Last best bet of the day. The one in the NBA is coming up here. It's an ugly one, man. But you know me. I take some ugly dogs sometimes. We're going to take the Washington Wizards plus 13.5 against the Knicks. Oh, boy. I know. But first of all, the Knicks, this is a road game, and the Knicks are not good on the road. The Knicks are 10-12 straight up on the road. You're asking them to lay double digits? I mean, okay, I know we're talking about the Wizards here, but the Knicks, they have a huge home road split, and they're way better at home than on the road, so that's not a good sign. And we don't need Washington to win this game outright, of course. They only need to cover. Washington has been better at home than on the road, at least. I mean, they're just not good in general, but 9 of their 13 wins have come at home, so they are better at home, which is not surprising, really. Both these teams better at home. The Knicks are also, I don't think they're in a good spot. The Knicks just beat the Lakers, which I think was a pretty big TV game, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, it was an NBC game. They beat the Lakers. I know the Knicks were favorites. They were expected to win, but that's pretty satisfying when you go on TV and you beat Luka, you beat LeBron, you beat the fucking Lakers, one of the teams with the most wins in NBA history. Big win for the Knicks, man. Now they have a single game road trip to Washington. Like, are they really going to care about this Washington game? I don't think so. And look at their games coming up. Tomorrow they have an ESPN game against Denver. Huge game back at home. Then they go on the road and they play Detroit and Boston. Those are all much, much bigger games. To me, this is pretty clearly a sandwich spot, right? I think they might just completely overlook the Wizards here. The Wizards have been sneakily playing a little bit better, although they're still easy to overlook. But they've won 3 of their last 4 games, although I don't think people are going to really give them credit for beating Portland, Milwaukee, I think without Giannis, and then Sacramento in their last game. Sacramento's been awful, but still, I mean, I don't know. Give Washington some credit for playing all right here on this homestand and getting some wins. The Portland win is actually better than you think it was. That was an upset win. Portland's not that bad. But then people are also going to look and see, Washington got obliterated by the Lakers in there, though. And you're talking about, the Knicks just beat the Lakers by double digits, and the Lakers beat Washington by 31. So this is so obvious, right? Like, the only thing you could do here is to lay the points with the Lakers, or with the Knicks, excuse me. They should kill Washington based on that, right? Well, again, no, that's not the way to look at it, man. You got to look at the individual situation, and the situation is way worse, I think, for the Knicks here. I think Washington will at least get up for this game. They got a little bit of momentum coming into this, a little bit more confidence, playing a little bit better. This Washington team might be on the rise a little bit here. We're going to do it. Washington plus the points. The Knicks, it looks like the money is coming on the Knicks early, but I don't know if this is really what the market read is going to wind up looking like, because I think the spot's awful. Hopefully the market comes into line with my thinking on this, but either way, you're going to be fading a public side here, which I like. The Knicks, 78% of the tickets, 85% of the cash on the Knicks. I know it's ugly, but you can't avoid ugly dogs, man. It's whatever you think is the best situation. Go with the process. This has worked for me for years and years and years, man, for almost 2 decades doing stuff like this. So we'll roll with the ugly dog in this one. Wizards plus the points. JC, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. JC is everywhere. All right. What do we got left here? A few more games here. We have LA Lakers at Brooklyn. Lakers coming into this, they're staying in New York, so that's at least something for the Lakers. So not a huge travel spot for them, but they are coming off a big TV game against the Knicks, and they do have Philadelphia, Golden State, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, all coming up next, and then Dallas, the Luka battle, part whatever, 4 or 5 at this point. But those are all bigger games in this game against Brooklyn. So even though the travel spot is pretty decent for the Lakers, I don't know, because they might still just overlook the Nets, because the Nets suck. The Nets are, of course, coming off that ridiculous loss to Detroit, losing by 53. I think if any team loses by 53, you got to think they're going to be focused in their next game. But the problem with that is Brooklyn's returning home from a road trip. And I always talk about this when a team has a long road trip, which is the case here. Brooklyn had to go all the way to the Pacific Coast. Then they went into elevation. Then they finished the road trip in Detroit. Long road trip. They've been on the road since January 25th. And they have to go right back out on the road again and play Orlando on Thursday, although that's not a road trip. It's just a single road game. But I think it's bad. I mean, first of all, when a team returns home from a road trip, that's bad enough because you have to get back to home life. Stuff can distract you, whatever. But then if you have to go right back out on the road again, you just don't have that much time to do stuff at home. So the spot for Brooklyn is actually pretty bad, even though generally, like, I would say, yeah, they can't really overlook the Lakers, really. Like, you're not going to be unfocused, really, when the Lakers come in. But that distraction spot, returning home, it is bad, dude. That's just the way that it is. So the fact that the Lakers are actually staying in New York, that actually does help the Lakers quite a bit in this game. Now, the market read is still saying to take the points with the Nets. Lakers are up to an 8.5-point favorite, 9 almost. 91% of tickets, 78% of the cash on them. So they'll be obviously the public side. Lakers, no question about that. Only 78% of the cash on them. It's a difficult game, and I pretty much will never lean to the teams returning home from a road trip. I know the Lakers are kind of in a sandwich spot, but that game wasn't that close at the end of that game against the Knicks. I would probably actually lean towards the Lakers in that game very, very slightly, but I don't love it. I mean, of course I don't love it. I don't like it. Obviously I'm staying away. Atlanta at Miami. I mean, I'm not giving it out as a play, I should say, either. Atlanta is coming off losing to Indiana. Not a great loss there. They've had a few days off, or a couple days off, so that might help break this 2-game losing streak that they're on. So they probably will have momentum, or maybe they'll have new momentum, coming into this game against Miami. They'll have at least broken their losing momentum, maybe, with a couple of days off. Miami's coming off playing 3 straight games against Chicago because one of those games got postponed. But that sets up a very, very odd spot scheduling-wise for Miami, which I forgot to mention in that last game they played, although I was right about Miami zigzagging against Chicago. The zigzag was in full effect there, with the result in each one of those games wound up being the opposite of the result in the prior game, which makes sense because the team adjusts to what happened in the previous game and fixes things. Now, what I did not mention in that game, because even though I did like Miami, which was correct, but Miami was there. Those teams were playing a back-to-back. But if you look, because that game got rescheduled, Miami was playing they were playing their third back-to-back since January 24th. That's insane, dude. Because they weren't supposed to have a back-to-back on the 28th and 29th, but that game got rescheduled to that day. So Miami's in a very, very weird spot where they played a lot of games in quick succession here. And they also had a back-to-back on the 19th and the 20th. I mean, that's absolutely insane. This is going to be their 10th game since the 19th, I think. Yeah, I think it's 10 games. Yeah, so that's just ridiculous. And they're playing whatever this is. I think it's a 5th game in 7 days. It's a 6th game in 8 days, if I'm doing that math right. I don't know if I am, but and then it would be like a 9th game in 14 days or 13 days or something. I mean, this has been just a jammed schedule for Miami. So I think it's a tough spot for them, man. The rest advantage definitely lies with the Hawks in this game. Miami does start a road trip, and they do have to go to Boston next. They might overlook this Hawks team. It's been struggling a bit, man, and Miami might look ahead to Boston. So I would only lean towards Atlanta in this one. They are getting the money as well. The Heat have already dropped from a 5.5-point favorite to a 3-point favorite. Getting points with the Hawks in a game like this, yeah, I mean, it does look like the way to go, even though you're getting a little bit less value on it. I would lean to the Hawks. 50% of the tickets on the Hawks, so 50-50 on the tickets, but 90% of the cash on the Hawks. I agree with that. I would lean towards the Hawks. All right. My Boston Celtics are at Dallas. Celtics coming off crushing Milwaukee, although it was without Giannis, whatever. Celtics now starting a road trip. This is a TV game, NBC and Peacock, but the Celtics, there is the potential they're looking ahead because they have Houston tomorrow, and that is a bigger game than playing Dallas. Dallas just been struggling all season, so the Celtics might not come into this game fully focused. Celtics coming off 2 pretty much blowout wins against the Kings and the Bucks. Not great teams there. Celtics are still a pretty legit team, though, believe it or not, playing surprisingly well without Jason Tatum this season. Well-coached team, but this spot maybe not great for them. But the spot for Dallas may not be that great either. Now, some of it is okay for Dallas because they've lost 4 games in a row, and now they've had 2 days off, so that's good. That might help break the losing momentum. That's good, but they are coming off a huge game against Houston, which was a Texas rivalry game, of course. Houston, one of the bigger brothers to Dallas right now. Dallas only lost them on the road by 4, so Dallas played a really good game in that game. Almost beat Houston, and they got San Antonio next. Now, I don't think Dallas will overlook the Celtics, but if they're ever going to overlook the Celtics, it might be in a spot like this where it's surrounded by Texas rivals here. Huge games because San Antonio and Houston are both good too. So I don't love the spot for Dallas here. Not a good spot for either team, really. Celtics are public, of course. They will be. 67% of tickets, 66% of the cash. They did drop a little bit from a 7.5-point favorite to a 7-point favorite. So the market read is saying to take the points with Dallas. I will slightly agree with that and hope that, I hope that my gauge on the Celtics is actually wrong because I'm a fan of the Celtics and I want them to win. But I do have a gauge that's pretty good on the Celtics. And I did give out a play on them in that bounce back spot against the Kings. But this spot, it looks like one of those spots where they might get caught. So I would lean to taking the points with Dallas, but I don't love the spot. Chicago at Milwaukee. Now, Chicago is also having to play a lot of games in quick succession, just like Miami, because they had that stupid postponed game. So Chicago is now playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. Fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities, and a fifth game in 7 days, all in different cities. They're playing what are we looking at here? Yeah, that's basically the extent of it. They've had fewer back-to-backs than Miami did, but that's still a lot of games to be playing recently. They had the rare fifth game in 7 days for Chicago here, and in their case, they've been traveling. Actually, it's not all in different cities because the last two were both in Miami. They were traveling between some of these games. So it's not a great spot for Chicago rest-wise. But they are coming off a blowout loss. So sometimes teams will bounce back after a blowout loss. But I don't know if I trust the Bulls just having played so many games recently. And, of course, they're playing the Bucks, and the Bucks are also coming off a blowout loss. But the Bucks are returning home from a road trip. Which was only a 3-game road trip, but they have been gone for a week. So when a team is on the road for a week, they went to Philadelphia, Washington, Boston. When a team is gone for a week, sometimes they will still be not hungover, but be distracted. Coming back home, you get back to home life, you have stuff to do. So that still might be an issue for Milwaukee here. So I really don't like the spot for either team coming into this one. Could be an unfocused spot maybe for the Bucks. Could be a bad rest spot for the Bulls. Now, the money is coming in on the Bulls. It looks like they're a 2.5-point favorite because Giannis is out, of course. 78% of tickets, 86% of the cash on the Bulls. Money is indicating on the side of the Bulls. I won't disagree with it just because I do tend to fade the team returning over from the road trip. I think that is basically the worst spot that you can be in. So I will slightly lean to the Bulls there, but I really, really worry about the lack of rest that they have there. Okay, Orlando at Oklahoma City. First thing I noticed about this is the Thunder are only a 7-point favorite here, which seems very, very low. Usually the Thunder are going to be double digits against pretty much anybody at home. The Thunder do still win by an average of well into the double digits at home here. The public are, of course, going to be laying it with the Thunder here. 86% of the tickets, only 75% of the cash. So what's going on here? Because that line does look like it's too low. It looks way too easy to lay the points with the Thunder. And I know the Magic are probably a little bit underrated here, but we're still talking about Franz Wagner being out for Orlando. So Orlando's still not a fully intact team here. So why is Oklahoma City only laying 7.5? Well, I took a look, and it looks like they might be resting some guys here. Jalen Williams is still out, which we already knew. Not to be confused with the other Jalen Williams, who's less important, sorry. But it looks like Hartenstein and Holmgren might both actually not play in this game. They're both listed on the injury report as day-to-day, but they might rest for injury management. So this looks like one of these games where maybe the Thunder are just kind of just not showing up fully for the game. Although sometimes in those games, the backups play well. And Oklahoma City does have a strong second string. Like Oklahoma City is one of the deepest teams out there. But mentally, when you're resting your starters like that, sometimes it is indicative of the fact that the team just might not be putting their full focus into the game. You know what I mean? Although it does factor into the line, so that would worry me a little bit as far as playing Orlando here. Because I do lean to Orlando. I'm just not sure that the line value is there because the line had to be knocked down because it looks like the Thunder are resting a couple of their guys here. Now, the Magic, they're coming off losing to San Antonio, and that was a game where it wasn't that close towards the end of it. The Magic were hanging around for half the game. It was a big game, though. They're playing a fourth road game in 5 games, which I don't love really either. That's since Monday the 26th. So I don't exactly love how the spot sets up for Orlando, although I don't think the spot is good for the Thunder. The Thunder just beat Denver. That was a big win. They're returning home, although only from a 2-game road trip, only since Thursday. So it's not really that full road trip return where that spot really comes into full effect. But still, they are coming off beating Denver with Jokic back. Big game because Denver's going to be one of the teams in the mix to potentially win the West, Denver. And one of those other teams, and the team that's been really Oklahoma City's nemesis, that's who Oklahoma City plays next tomorrow on ESPN. They play the San Antonio Spurs, who Oklahoma City did finally beat them once, but they're still like 1-4 against them or something this year. So that is a big game to be looking ahead to, man. And they got Houston and then the Lakers after that. Houston also a TV game. So it is basically a sandwich spot that the Thunder are in. So I would go with the Magic in this one. Excuse me. I would take the points with the Magic. I just worry that the line value is maybe a little bit questionable and not totally there because the Thunder are resting a couple of their big names. So that would be my concern with it, but I lean to the Magic in that one. Philadelphia at Golden State. Philadelphia is already out in the Pacific time zone. They beat the Clippers. They're on a 4-game win streak. Philadelphia playing all right recently here. Coming into this game with momentum, but they're on a back-to-back. That does worry me. And they do have the Lakers next. So do they overlook Golden State towards the Lakers? I don't know. Because Golden State still has a lot of name recognition behind them. They got a lot of big-name players still. So maybe you don't overlook Golden State. Golden State did just return home from a road trip, and they lost to Detroit. Big game, but returning home from a road trip is a bad spot. As I always say, and a lot of times when you lose that game, you play better in the next game, and Golden State is in that spot now. So it is more of a positive spot, I think, and they haven't played since Friday. So they've had a lot of time off to break up that losing momentum. So I think the spot is better for the Warriors in this game. It looks like they are the side that's being indicated by the market here. The Sixers are a little bit public. 56% of tickets, only 55% of the cash on them. Warriors have gone up from 1.5 to 3. Of course, you know the odds makers do have to factor in the rest advantage a little bit into this line. But the public is probably thinking, I'm getting points with the team that has the better record here at the Sixers. Looks tempting against this old Warriors team that hasn't been playing that well. But I would have to lean to the Warriors here. The rest should help them out, especially given how old the Warriors are. Also, remember, Paul George is suspended for the Sixers, so he's not playing. He's missed a couple of games since that. And then we have the final game in the NBC Peacock doubleheader. The first game is my Celtics at Dallas. Not a great game. I don't know why it's the NBC game. Although none of these games are really that excellent. Although Denver and Detroit is the best game of the night, though. And then Phoenix at Portland is this last game. That's the second game of the doubleheader here. This game is actually not that bad. Portland has been surprisingly competitive this year. Phoenix is coming off getting pretty much blown out at home by the Clippers, so going out on the road for a game might help them out. I'll just refocus on basketball, although they do play Golden State next, but I don't think they're going to overlook a TV game like this. Although, I don't know, because Portland has a losing record, but Portland is better than the record appears. Portland's lost 5 games in a row, but most of them were on the road, and all of them except for the Washington game were against winning teams. And that Washington game was kind of a sandwich spot. I think I might have had Washington, or maybe I didn't, but I think I at least leaned to Washington in that game. Maybe it wasn't a play for me, but Portland, now that they're back at home, they returned from that road trip. They got pretty much blown out in that game by Cleveland. They should be in a more positive spot here, too, to bounce back. Although Portland does have those distractions going around with Avgia, however you pronounce his name, the Israeli dude that's just getting all this shit because he's not admitting well, I can't say it on, I'll get nuked on YouTube if I say anything, but he's promoting the bad things that his country is doing, let's just say. And it's becoming a bit of a distraction for Portland, I think. So what do we do with this game? I don't know. The Suns are the better team still, but the money is coming in on the Blazers. Suns, 60% of tickets. Portland have 85% of the cash. That's a huge market disparity, so I guess I will agree with the Blazers in the game. Spot doesn't look horrible for either team. But Blazers might be a little bit underrated right now. I mean, the record just doesn't really indicate what they really are. And they've had some injuries they've dealt with this year too, to Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant. Although I think Holiday might be out again, but yeah, Holiday's game time decision. Let's see. Although so is Avdija. That's how you pronounce his name. I guess I don't know. Holiday is questionable, but his issue was personal, so I don't know. So maybe he will play. And then I don't know if Avdija, I can't pronounce his name. Whatever. Israel guy, he's doubtful, so he's not playing in the game. But that might actually help Portland because it might remove that distraction for the time being. And I don't know if Jeremy Grant is back or not, but he was one of their better players who was injured for a bit of the season. That's going to do it, man. 2-hour show. Once again, my plays today, just for 3 plays, 1 in each sport. We're going to be on USC +1 in college basketball and hockey. Philadelphia Flyers money line. NBA Washington plus the points. That's going to do it, man. That ugly play on the Wizards. Learn to tote on Twitter. Learn to tote on Instagram. I appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. You can subscribe to me on Twitter, too, if you want to help me out. And then, of course, subscribe to the channel here. Give me good comments here. We want to boost this channel, man. Let's get some more new viewers here. Want to blow this thing up and start monetizing it, man. Get some money streams going in any way that we can. This show is on audio too, so reviews over there and listening help me out because it is monetized, but it doesn't bring in very much. Spotify and Apple, I feel like I'm begging, but this is how I'm getting any money for the time being. So check all that out. Covered in Uke is my ukulele channel on YouTube, separate channel. Maybe I've been thinking maybe I should combine it all into one, just monetize everything. I don't know, man. But that's my other YouTube channel. Do ukulele covers and whatever over there. You can also support me through Patreon, patreon.com/learntotode, and there's some bonus uke content there as well because I play ukulele and do bad ukulele covers. And check out Losercast, the comedy podcast that I do, which is a new show. We'll be doing episode 12 tonight at 10 p.m. after Legion of Skanks. You can, have that little after party with us where I have a couple ideas of who I want to nominate for my loser tonight, but that's what we do. We nominate the week's biggest losers, and then we battle each other as far as, do we think that's a good pick? Do we not? Are we really the losers? Whatever, etc. So you can check that out tonight as well. That's going to do it. Thanks, guys, again. I appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow morning, I think will be the next show. I'm going to figure out when I'm going to do the bracketologies, and I might start doing like twice a week. I don't know what I'm going to do for the final bracketology, though, because the final one is like I put out a final one like right after the game's like finished, basically. So that's like I don't know if I could really do a stream at that point, although I guess, I don't know, maybe I could live stream that while we watch the brackets get announced. If you think maybe I should do that, maybe I will do that, actually. I've never done that before. Because I have my routine where usually I get Burger King and I eat that I don't know why I started doing that, but that's what I do, even though it's not even the greatest fast food at all, and fast food in general sucks. But that's usually what I'm eating while I watch the brackets be revealed. So I don't know, we'll see. Last year I did a reaction to it like that night after they came out, my initial thoughts. So maybe I'll still do it that way. I don't know, but we'll see. That's gonna do it for now, though. Peace, everybody.